Ben Vitale,
Here.
Grant Kyle,
Here.
Paul Pinkney,
Here.
Aileen McNabb Coleman,
Present.
Joe DeForest,
Present.
Terry Baxter,
Aye.
Joe Bennett,
Present.
Frank Reginelli,
Here.
Patrick Mahonick,
Here.
Timothy Lattimore,
Here.
Michael Didio,
Here.
Ryan Foley,
Present.
Keith Batman is excused.
Okay, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Barbara Babiar, employed by the Cayuga County Department of Social Services until her retirement.
We have a public hearing tonight authorizing the addition of the requested parcels to Cayuga County Consolidated Agricultural District Number 5. I guess I'll open the public hearing at this time. If there's anybody that would like to speak for the public hearing, ask you to step forward, name and address. If not, I'll be asking again a little bit later on in the meeting. We have two proclamations tonight. So can I ask Deputy Sheriff, Navigational Deputy Sheriff Daniel Emmy and Navigational Assistant Kevin Gauthier to come forward and be free to bring your families with you. And Sheriff, if you might join me. Whereas it is important to pause from time to time to recognize the exceptional work done by Cayuga County employees, and whereas such exceptional work occurred on June 24th, 2017, when two Cayuga County Sheriff's Marine Patrol members, Navigational Deputy Sheriff Daniel Emmy and Navigational Assistant Kevin Gauthier, were patrolling Cayuga Lake and noticed a person in distress. And whereas a kayaker was fishing when the wind and the waves capsized his kayak, his foot then became tangled in his anchor line, and he was being pulled under. He was beginning to panic when the deputies patrolling noticed him struggling in the water, and whereas when they tried to get him into their boat, they found that the anchor was wrapped around his ankle with about 50 pounds of seaweed attached. It took them a few minutes to get him free, and they continued to talk to him and reassure him that he would be okay. And whereas because of their attentiveness and swift action, Navigational Deputy Sheriff Emmy and Navigational Assistant Gauthier saved him from drowning. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Ben Vitale, and the Cayuga County Legislature and fellow legislators do hereby proclaim our gratitude and urge the residents of our county to join with us in recognition of Navigational Deputy Sheriff Daniel Emmy and Navigational Assistant Kevin Gauthier for their actions of heroism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, on behalf of all the members of the Sheriff's Department. I first found out about this, I received a letter that the person wants to remain anonymous, which is understandable, but he's a professional person that lives outside the county. He sent me a letter. And you know, a lot of times people are called heroes, and, you know, when they got the employee first, I said the same thing. But heroes means a different thing to everybody. It's a perception. But this gentleman absolutely put in his letter that if these people, these two deputies, were not at the same place at the same time, he would not be here today. So, I mean, coincidence is something, I don't know if anybody believes in divine intervention, but certainly within 30 seconds, this man would have drowned. So if Danny and Kevin were not there, we would have lost a citizen of New York. So they truly are heroes. They really did save a life, and we certainly appreciate that. I'm going to let them say a few words.
Be short. Yes.
We all know Dan.
No, it's all a matter of timing. It was pretty fortunate for the guy that we had a call to be in the area of it, and it was for a different type of complaint, a navigational hazard, which we couldn't find it, so I said, we'll wait 45 minutes to an hour, and then we noticed that the kayak had turned over. We see it all the time, but the waves had come up suddenly, and they were 2.5 foot. And this kayak was a type that where you sit on top of it instead of inside, and he was holding on to it from the bottom. I should say the bottom of the kayak from the inside the water, and he was having trouble hanging on. It kept pushing him away, and as it did, it would pull him under. And he stated he was about to go under and try to untangle when he saw our boat coming up to him, so he held on, and when we got him in, it took several minutes to get it off his ankle, and it was considerable amount of weight. Seaweed was all the way down, and the anchor was totally capsized in it, and I had trouble pulling the anchor in, and had he gone under, he'd have disappeared in front of us. We wouldn't have any idea where to get him because it just all looks the same. So everything worked out in his favor, and like the sheriff said, divine intervention. Something was in his corner to have it there, because he did hang out long enough for us to get him out of the water, and it just worked out for everybody. That's what happened.
I just want to say thanks. This is a great honor. I'm just glad Dan really caught him, got us over there quickly, and that I was able to be a part of helping someone out, because I know we have law enforcement that do it every day and they don't always get the recognition, so this is really nice, and just a big thanks to them. Thank you.
Again, thank you for the recognition from the county. We truly appreciate every member of the Sheriff's Department. I've known Kevin since he was born, and I've known Danny for 40 years, and I know their families very, very well. So we really want to congratulate them, and they truly, truly did save a life that day, and this person will never forget it. He calls me and sends me emails and sends me letters thanking us again. So thank you both for saving a life. Thank you.
Public to be heard.
Again, I'd like to thank both of them, thank their families for coming. Great honor for both of them, and honestly, Kevin, great to, I hope you really enjoy being part of it, and hope it changes a lot of things for you in the future. So, thank you so much. Me? Okay. Okay, at this time, is there any public to be heard? Any legislators have anybody that wants to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I do want to say a few things under the public to be heard. I'll give you the notes to Sheila afterwards, but there's two issues that I want to bring up under the public to be heard. One is the status of the litigation between the Oswego County Supreme Court relating to the Fulton Branch campus of the U.S. Bank Corp. As originator of the debt obligation assumed by the affiliate of the county's foundation, CCF River Glen Holding, has commenced a foreclosure action against the college foundation affiliate entity, and I understand the college, among other things, is seeking a judgment of foreclosure on the default delinquent balloon mortgage payment that matured in 2016. And also, I'd like to have some clarification of the involvement of community college administration and board of trustees members in the governance of the Institute for Application of Geospatial Technology.
You're really getting into executive session stuff now, Tim?
I don't
So
think
if you
so.
just-
I think the public would like to hear what we're doing with these two
There are things that
aspects.
are meant for executive session, and I don't think everything has to be in front of the public.
Well, I'm going to
I
put
will use
this,
the judgment of our attorney that's sitting to my right of me.
I'm going to, there's
And
a
at
page
this
here
point in
that I
time,
want to put in the
will
minutes.
warn you to be general and to finish your statements. And if you could please do that, I'll let you go proceed. But please do not get into executive session issues.
I think it's pretty public knowledge, but as chairman, if you want to silence me, you're right, but
Not
I'm
trying to
concerned-
silence you, I'm asking you to be general enough so that it's not executive session issues.
Well, I'll give you these minutes, and then Fred can look at them and see what's executive and what isn't. All right?
Wrap up your,
No, we're good.
okay.
And also, one other thing, I have brought up to all the different committees in regards to the opiate litigation. I'd like to join with the other 8 counties. I think we should get on this sooner than later. I know the tobacco money, we got $60 million to settlement, and hopefully we can get the opioid epidemic under control with some kind of settlement money. So I'd like to proceed with that issue, too.
I believe it will be on one of the committee agendas. Mr. Foley has a government office. Any other public to be heard? All righty.
Minutes for approval, July 25th, 2017, and August 2nd, 2017.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. This time I'll ask Dr. Brian Durant to give his report on the college.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to recognize one of our trustees, Dr. Stenk, is here with me this evening. We're at the point of our year where we're just a few days away from our fiscal year end. As I've mentioned throughout the year, we've been on pace in 16-17 to exceed our budgeted projections, and at this point, we are going to be over 1% of what we had budgeted for this year when it comes to exceeding our enrollment expectations for this year. You probably read last week, or some of you may have read last week, as captured in our Board of Trustee meeting, that our applications for new students for 17-18 has been up all year, and I've been reporting about that monthly. We're at the point now where we're begin our classes next Monday that our applications for new students was up nearly 12% for the year, which is great. It's the first time in a long time that the college has seen an increase in applications. We've talked about it, that we've made a real conscious effort this year to increase our marketing, increase our actual strategies for engaging students on the ground, prospective students. And ultimately, what we really wanted to do was to have more students select and identify Cayuga Community College as their choice or potential choice for the pursuit of higher education. So seeing an increase is a good thing for us in applications. As we see those that are registered and those that actually enroll, we'll be able to report in October where we land compared to our actual budgeted FTE that I talked about earlier. Orientations are underway in the Fulton and Auburn campuses. We started our first 2 last week. We have 2 more this week with classes beginning on Monday. And it's really it's hard to believe that the summer is kind of come and gone for us, but we live our life in academic years, so we're excited to get started and bring in our new class. We've had a number of changes and a number of things being done, both on the personnel side and certainly in the facilities side. Last month, we welcomed our new Associate Vice President and Dean of our Fulton campus, Dr. Keiko Kimura, who started with us at the end of July, and we are in the final stages of hiring with the hopes of having someone start in late September for a new Dean of Students / Chief Diversity Officer, which is a position that I presented to you all in our budget as a new position, one that brings us to compliance with SUNY's initiative on diversity, inclusion, and equity, as well as to be able to strengthen our programs and services on our campus to support diverse learners in the broadest sense of the word. We also will be beginning a new program next week. We've been working on it for a number of years, and that is an occupational therapy assistant program. It will be launched out of our Fulton campus, and that initial cohort is already established and will be beginning next week. Just today, I drove past on my way back from being out of the area for meetings. We have a new sign that's been installed, or in the process of being installed, right in front of our Auburn campus here, to help start to recreate our storefront And I really think that it looks well. Our facility staff has been working diligently over the last several months on a number of in-house renovations and moves. Probably the biggest one to that has been creating a new nursing lab and nursing healthcare space that's really bringing it from our lowest level of our tech building up into the main building, if you're familiar with the campus at all. That is a state-of-the-art facility that will really help support our faculty and, most importantly, our students to make sure that they're well prepared for tomorrow's job opportunities and the challenges within the healthcare industry. So our facility staff has done a tremendous job of getting these projects done and doing it in just a tremendous way that is transforming our campus and making just an impressive impact to our facilities. So that concludes my formal report.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Durant? Mr. Lattimore.
Doctor, as you know, I'm all in favor of the college. I know that you'll be probably coming back to this board for additional funding, and I'm willing to give you that funding.
Appreciate that.
I have no problem with supporting our college, our educational system. Now, you said that I think 2 years ago we had a report that our Fulton campus was up to about 2,000 people. Is that still true today? Or is it was it a misprint in the paper with regards to only 900 applicants? Or?
No. So when we look at our enrollment, we talk about our enrollment and present our enrollment in FTE form, which is full-time equivalency, and not to get too far in what that is in case I don't want to lose anyone. But what that really means is you take your total number of credit hours and you divide it by 30, and then that then converts to what is considered a full-time equivalent. So we often talk about it in those terms. One of the interesting things that people may not realize, and this will be a data point that I will be more than happy to share, because we're just going to share with our trustees this month and share it with you all. Cayuga Community College has actually served more students this year in 16-17 by head count than it did in a previous year, last year, even though there's a difference in full-time equivalent, FTE, of well over 100 FTE. And one of the trends to that is that we have seen a dramatic increase in the percentage of our student body who's part-time versus full-time. It's similarly true when we talk about applications. So to be clear about that, when I talk about we were up 12% in applications, we recruit people. We don't recruit credit hours. So if we have 12% more people that are interested in enrolling in the college, yet a higher percentage of them are only planning on taking one course versus being a full-time student taking 5 courses, when you multiply that out and divide it by 30, you're going to potentially be down in FTE but serve more individuals. And I think one of the stories that needs to be clearer for the community is that we are serving more people today than what we did a year ago. And I believe with our growth in part-time enrollment again next year, we'll continue to see an increase in the number of students we're serving. The student demographic in choosing to be a full-time student versus a part-time student, that is part of the evolution of the demographics when it comes to competition of higher education that I think is making it a little bit more difficult to say, well, we have fewer people living in the community, but yet we're serving more than what we did before. And so when we bring that to your specific question about Fulton, when we lay out our enrollment demographics, we lay it out by credit hours. And so the credit hours for a student, we know that 40% of our student body is taking some of their classes online as well as in Fulton. So we need to break that number down and specifically tell you that we're serving well over X% and what that total head count is for each of our campuses, regardless of whether they're taking online. Because how we present our data and how the colleges presented their data historically has been based on where the credits they're taking are actually being taken from, instead of how many bodies are being served in each physical space. And that's something that we will clarify. I will clarify for you and look to give you a firm number on that next month.
Well, as I said, one of the jewels in the crown is the Institute for the Application of Geospatial Technology. And I just don't want to see that technology go away. Everybody was looking at the eclipse yesterday, millions, billions of people. And we had one of the greatest programs, and it's slipping through our fingers.
Yeah, I think I've addressed this body before in saying that the Institute for Geospatial Technology at the college is not the college. It's an institute that stands alone on its own as its own entity. The college has a GIS program. The college has a number of other programs to support environmental sciences. The college is committed to offering academic programs with student interest that prepares them for a number of fields in the area of science and STEM. So, it would be unfortunate to lump in an institute and connect that to where the college is or what the college is up to when there is a distinct difference in one entity to the other. It would be just like comparing two other businesses in a way. And I'm just trying to provide clarity from the perspective of what it means, what it is legally and what it is functionally for how the college operates. There's a county agency that resides at the college, and they're a standalone entity that flows in certainly to county government, as I would understand it. So I wouldn't want it to necessarily get lost that even though there might be entities who are housed and operate and function within the brick and mortar of the institution, does not necessarily mean that they're connected to the vibrancy or the viability of the college.
Well, it should be a program that we're developing instead of ending.
The college has the academic program in place to support geospatial technology.
Mr. Dennison?
For simple-minded people like myself,
Yeah.
can we have, obviously, the county gives money to the college.
Yep.
So it's taxpayer money.
Yep.
So all this FTE, all this stuff, can we have every year simple, this is the number of students enrolled, this is the dollar amount of tuition that is coming from that number of students. That way, next year, if this is the amount of students enrolled and it's up, but yet the tuition is down, then people are gonna be able to say, must be there's a lot more part-timers than there are full-timers, and that just kinda makes it a little easier
Sure.
for
Absolutely.
doing the whole
More than happy,
breakdown.
we'd be more than happy to break that down.
Because I've had people ask me those kind of questions, and I said, I agree, that would be a simpler process for us as a team. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Any other questions for the doctor? Right, thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you.
Any committee reports or individual reports from the individual legislators? Mr. Dennis?
I just want to say I can't wait till 2024, because our sales tax ought to be skyrocketed, if anybody watched the whole eclipse thing yesterday. The poor guy from ABC News guy, the one guy that had to rent an RV in Oklahoma to get to Nebraska because there wasn't a hotel in 150 miles. And with it going right over Buffalo, we'll be in the 100%. We should be rolling in the dough that year, so.
Tourism, people will probably be happy.
I plan on renting spots out in cornfields because it's in April, so we won't be planning yet. $10 a spot, pull in here.
And you can toll
Any
it
other-
out.
Hope it's dry.
And that's all, like, make $20 to.
Any other positive reports from our legislators? Otherwise, since Mr. Batman is not here, I'll give a short report. First of all, I know the search committee has done a wonderful job, and Andy will report, Mr. Dennison will report on that a little bit later tonight. But I want to thank the members of the committee personally and for the legislature. It was Kelly Anderson. From the public was Carmen Cosentino, Mr. DeForest, Andrew Dennison, our Sheriff David Gould, Aileen McNabb Coleman, also from the public, Ryan Pine, and Mike Russell, who chaired it. And I sincerely want to give all those people a hearty thank you and job well done, and we can't wait to keep moving forward. Another committee that's been doing a lot of hard work is the CGR committee, and we've all been getting a lot of emails regarding to that. And so I'd like to thank that committee for all their hard work, and we look forward to moving in that, on that also. Sunday, I had the pleasure and honor of going to Brian Dahl's benefit. And I want to thank all the county employees and electeds that were there. The Dahl family has done a lot for our community, and it was great to see, the community giving back to them. And I can tell you that the Dahls and Brian were very thankful. and really appreciated all the outgiving, so I'll thank you for them. Last on my list is the budget. Keith has been meeting with department heads. We started probably a week and a half ago. On my end, we've met with everybody in planning and public works. So far, those things look pretty good. I know he looks to wrap up these initial meetings the end of September and the first week of, the end of August and the first week of September. The administrative, the management group or the administrative team hopes to get the first glimpse of the numbers, hopefully in the second week of September. Keith will then probably go back to some of the committee heads. And just for a little bit of clarification, because we don't have an administrator, the chair will present a budget to Ways and Means. At the Ways and Means Committee, will have an opportunity to change that presented budget. And when that's accepted by Ways and Means, correct me if I'm wrong, that will become our tentative budget. Preliminary budget. Tentative, preliminary. It is the preliminary budget, okay? So just a little bit of clarification, and hopefully the budget process will continue to move forward as smooth as it has so far. Other than that, I don't have anything else on my report. So at this time, I'll ask if there's any public to be heard for the public hearing. If not, regular monthly appointments and reappointments.
Office for the Aging Advisory Committee, Jeff Appleby, 51 Second Ave, Auburn, New York, term 8/1/17 to 12/31/22, new appointment.
Move it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
Communications and announcement?
I'll entertain a motion to,
Move it.
Mr.
Second.
Pinkman. Mr. Bennett, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Without further ado, we'll move right on to our monthly resolutions. I'll ask Chairman of Ways and Means, Amy McNabb-Coleman.
Chairman Vitale, I'd like to present the regular monthly resolutions, 1A and 1B. They've been through committee, and I offer them up for this committee's vote.
Do I have a motion? Mr.
Second.
Lattimore, seconded Andy Dennison. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
I post.
Oh, one opposed.
Who opposed?
Mr. Lattimore.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer WM1, WM2, WM3 as a bundle, and they've also been through committee, and I offer them to this group for a vote.
Move it.
Have a motion by Mr. DeForest, second by Grant Kyle. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I post.
Mr. Lattimore opposed. Carried. Health and Human Services,
Mr. Chairman, I submit Health and Human Services resolutions H1 through H5. I'd like to present them as a bundle, but then through committee.
moved. Motion by Mr. Baxter, seconded by Mr. Kyle. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Lattimore.
I will be abstaining on HH1,
Would you like it separated out?
whatever you want to do, I'm just
Well,
abstaining.
you can't abstain.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, you really need to separate it out, so if somebody wants to make a motion to separate out number one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kyle, and I think he seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
Abstain.
No, that's just to separate it, Tim, I'm sorry. Okay, so a motion to move forward with HH2 through 5.
Move it.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baxter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Motion for HH1.
Move it.
Mr. DeForest. Second. Seconded by Grant Kyle. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Lattimore abstained. Carried. Thank you. Mr. Foley, Government Ops.
Mr. Chairman, Government Operations has 3 resolutions. They have passed through committee as well as Ways and Means. I present them to this body.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Mr. Pinckney, Planning?
Mr. Chairman, Planning has 2 resolutions before you. Both have been through both committees. Seek approval.
Move it.
I'll offer as a bundle.
Move it.
Any discussion? Yes.
Just a quick question, can we do one while the public hearing is still open?
That was my,
No, you have to hold on.
okay, so we'll have to separate out one. We'll have to do, since there's only 2, have a motion for PL2.
Move it.
Move. Second, Mr. Kyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. So we'll come back to PL1 at the end. Mr. Baxter, Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, Public Works has 1 resolution that's been through committee. I offer it up for approval.
Move it.
And Mr. Bennett, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Judicial and Public Safety.
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 resolutions. They've been through both committees. I would offer them as a bundle.
Move it.
Second.
All 3.
Mr. Didio. Mr. Baxter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Again, at this time, I'll ask one last time if anybody has anything to offer for the public hearing. Not at this time, I'll close the public hearing and ask Mr. Pinckney to proceed with Planning 1.
I'd like to offer PL1, has again been through committees, seeks for approval.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, this time under other business, I would ask Andy to give a quick update on the administrative search. Mr. Dennison, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we started with 60? More than 60 from all over the world, applicants. We narrowed it down to 10, then we narrowed it down to 5, which we're going to present to the ledge to see who they choose. Our group was, as Mike put it earlier, we didn't always agree, but we agreed to disagree and get the job done. And I think we came up with 5 really good candidates. So,
Thank you. I, again, like to thank everybody that worked on that. 2 things that I would like to come out of this meeting from the legislature is they're presenting 5 candidates. And so some of the questions that the chairman needs in order to schedule meetings is if the group would like to interview 2 at a time, which would be 3 nights of interviews or meeting and talking, or if we would like to try to get 2 in one night and 3 in another night. And then the other area that we need to kind of give some direction to is timing as to when. I think next week is going to be a little bit too early because Mr. Russell has to get all these people to arrange for getting here and things. And so the question is, would we do them like at 5 o'clock before a committee meeting, or what time could work for people? Mr. Dennison?
we discussed in our meeting before this the week of the 12th, 13th, and 14th, which is all 3 nights committees. But somebody brought up the point that I had forgot about, that's also NISAC.
Yeah.
So that can cause,
I'm sorry, it's night.
that's also NISAC that
Oh,
week.
yep.
So that can cause an issue for people to be able to be here for those nights.
We have 4 going, and 2 are only going on Thursday.
But, I mean, this is something where we really would like 100% participation from the legislature.
It's exactly why we want to discuss it here when
So,
everybody's here.
One of my question we discussed is the week before, would that be too soon? I guess that would be the question for you too, Mike. The week of Labor Day, but, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that of that week, if NISAC's gonna be an issue for the following week? Or is that too soon too?
It certainly is more time than we were thinking, because we were trying to get transmitted next week.
Yeah.
I think we could look to that week if that's the will of the legislature. From talking to the candidates, they are all very interested and will make themselves available. So
I guess as a body, we have to decide.
5th, 6th, and 7th, yeah?
I'm looking that up right now.
If those are nights without committee, then maybe you could do 3 in one night. I don't know what your opinion is.
Tuesday would be the 5th, Wednesday the 6th, Thursday the 7th. I'm sure nobody wants to meet on a Friday night.
No.
Mr. Baxter?
Mr. Chairman, how about the 6th and the 7th, if we did 3 one day and 2 the other? That way, anybody coming back late from Labor Day vacation wouldn't be due to be here on Tuesday.
You were saying the 6th and the 7th.
I am.
Second.
The committee had concerns, and certainly we're just a counseling kind of committee, so we realized we had no control over it at this point, and that's fine. But one of the concerns was, I'm not sure if this is because of the meeting on the night of the committee meeting when we were originally talking about this, but, you know, can people keep their focus together for 3 candidates in one night? And, you know, if there's any doubt about that, it's really unfair to the last person standing. It's just something to think about.
Another question that I have is, could we even meet before 5 o'clock? And I can't answer for you folks. If we were to have a meeting at 4 or 4:30, is that too early for anyone in the group? Yeah. So the earliest time frame would be 5 o'clock? Okay. So if you start at 5 and we have a committee meeting at 6 or 6:30, my gut feeling is it gives you time enough for probably 2.
There's no committees.
No committees.
Oh, okay.
The first week, there'd be no committee.
Okay. Anybody, so who wants to do 3 and 2 on the 6th and 7th? Show of hands.
Pretty much all of them. All of them.
Anyone want to do 3 nights of 5th, 6th, and 7th?
No.
Okay. So if I give the direction to the chair and to Mr. Russell to book things for the 6th and 7th after 5 o'clock, that's kind of what I'm hearing. Mr. Pinckney?
What are you looking at for time-wise, 35 to 40 minutes?
that's about right. With
Each candidate.
some kind of a break in between. You know, 15 minutes or something so people can readjust, and if there's interest in some discussion after and whatnot. But yeah, it was a half an hour. We're talking about a half an hour.
Good, yeah, that's fine. I think that's enough.
Mr. Dennis?
It was brought up during our search committee too. Those that are on it that aren't legislators, obviously will have no final say, but those folks, some would like to be able to be here to watch the final you know, see it through to the end, sitting over there, whatever, wherever. But we obviously need this body to okay that, so I'd like to bring that forward to see if anyone has an issue with those people being able to see the final interviews. They will have no say, they'll sit quietly, whatever, but they just would like to see it through.
Mr. Pinckney?
I'd support that. They put in their voluntary time, and it'd only be honorable to let them be here.
I hear any other comments from the group? Mr. DeForest?
Fred, is there any, there's no legal issue with that?
There's no legal
Proceeding
issue with that.
right? Okay, that's it then.
So is that something that everybody is, anybody opposed to that? Okay.
So we can tell them
Will,
yes.
pardon me?
We can tell them yes then.
We will proceed in that direction and figure out how we're going to handle that. Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, just one quick question on that. Now, will they have to sign a confidentiality agreement for that night?
We all did.
Yeah, but I want for that night, so it's not back to say, the legislator Dennison said this and such said this when it hits the street or so.
I'll leave that to our HR department.
We can certainly do that. I will check first, the confidentiality agreement that you have and the one that we had signed by the committee members was designed by our legal team. So I will ask them, does that continue to hold in place? And if not, I will have them design me a non-disclosure form for that.
Because already part of this agreement, some of it's already been discussed on the floor as it is. Like the process and everything, some of the process applications. So, you know, you're trying to freeze us from saying anything, yet we're right there in the public saying it.
I guess when I first envisioned this process, I guess I was thinking, I'm not exactly opposed to it either, but I thought maybe it was just going to be the legislature, and then perhaps we would open it up to the public when we get down, if there are maybe a series of finalists. You know, let's say we brought it down to a 3 or a 2, and I thought perhaps department heads, public would be able to come in and see, but I don't think we've fleshed out the rest of this process just yet, but, so, I'm ambivalent either way. I kind of thought that the search committee could come and see it through at that point. But that's, like I said, I can go either way.
Mr. Foley?
Mr. Chairman, I have had, to what Joe said, I have had questions about the confidentiality agreement. There's certain parts in here that, for instance, I mean, Fred, this is a public document here, we can discuss this that we, in open session.
I haven't seen it yet, but sure.
Okay. So like number 1, it says each member of the committee / legislature shall keep strictly confidential all aspects of the processes, deliberations, and documents of the committee. I mean, I think that's good. From what I can ascertain from this document, we want to keep the identities secret of the candidates, of the 5 candidates that we have. But some of the language in here suggests that we can't describe any of what we may be going through during this process. And I'm not sure how we are able to communicate with the general public to give them updates. I mean, for instance, on number 2, and we have to sign this, it says the information which shall be kept confidential shall include but not limited to the identity of all persons interested in the position, the identities of all persons identified by the committee as candidates. I think that's fine. You know, you want to protect them and their interests. The next line though says all deliberations of the committee / legislature regarding such candidates. So I guess my point is that what can we actually say during this process? Is it absolutely nothing? I did send these questions to you. I know we've been kind of back and forth, and I wanted to talk with Mike as well, but
Well, the purpose of the confidentiality agreement is to protect both the legislature, the process, and the candidates, right? Because there are at least, if I hear right, 5 candidates. My understanding is the legislature is going to meet and interview those candidates. That process is a deliberative process in executive session between the legislators and whoever else you decide to invite in. So whatever occurs there, like any other executive session, stays within the executive session. So I think I'm missing your question, but
well, just, I mean, what are we allowed to say in public about this process in order to keep them informed?
about the process, we're talking about it now, so that's okay. But as far as what an individual candidate says, or as far as what the opinion of the body is, it's too early to say that. So that information stays within executive session. And Eileen had mentioned a possibility of maybe, and I'm making part of this up, the last 2 candidates being done in public. Haven't heard that that's been decided. That may be, what, the 3rd step? Am I sensing that? Or is this going to be the last step?
We'll get back to that. Mr. Morton?
I had some issues with this document as well. I totally understand that the candidates would like to be kept confidential. They have jobs they'd like to keep. Their employers may or may not know. I understand that. I had some issues in number 1 also. I simply blacked it out and figured I'd leave it up to our legal team whether or not I was allowed to know names. I'm not going to tell anybody the candidates' names. They'll know who gets it. That's really all the public, I think, needs to know at this point. As far as talking about the process, we've already talked about the process. The public wants to know what the process is. What are we doing? Was there 1 candidate? Was there 100 candidates? How did you narrow it down? I don't feel like any of that needs to be confidential myself. We're not revealing too much information. That's my opinion. Our legal team may have a different opinion. I'll leave it up to them. I blacked out what I wasn't comfortable with and signed it.
Mr. Dennison?
I guess my question to both Mike and Fred is, my update on this, I mean, did I break the confidence? I mean, how am I supposed to give the update?
The sheriff's waiting for you.
I couldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't have known where we were at in the process.
No problem with that at all.
Okay.
Mr. Lattimore?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not part of the process, even though I have done this before in other governmental bodies, but a real good background check is one thing. Another thing is the work ethic of the person and the accomplishments, maybe from their past history. I mean, like on some of our hires, if we had picked the phone up and talked to a former or a legislator that was on the previous person's employment, we would have found out a lot. So how do we
Let me
get?
just answer a couple of those things, Tim. You are part of the process, okay? Every one of us legislators are part of the process. Don't be saying that you're not part of the process.
Not up till now. So this has been.
The other thing is that a lot of this you'll be receiving this before we start meeting with these people, okay? It's not like you're gonna go into this thing blindfolded. We're trying to include everybody in the process and give everybody as much information as we can so we can make a good decision together, including all 15 of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here trying to figure out what time everybody can get to these meetings. So, back to the question Mr. Foley had.
You still didn't answer my question in regards to sometimes picking up the phone and talking to a former legislator as to how that person performed their duties. I mean, we can't have that reach? Or does anybody on this board have that reach?
If there are reference checks to be made, those will be done either by background check by either an outside agency, and if there are references to be checked, it would be one individual. For instance, Mr. Russell would take care of that, rather than have 15 people pick up the phone. It's much neater and cleaner to have it done by one person, then that person reports back to the legislature. What happened in the county once before is some legislators got ahead of the curve. During a interview process, they reached out to the employer. That caused the individual to be fired from his employment. We do not want that type of situation, so we need to be very cautious around individual legislators going off and making individual calls, because we do not want to be subject to a lawsuit in that type of situation.
I'm not suggesting that.
I understand, I'm just giving a caution to the body.
Any other questions or comments, Mr. Fuller?
Did you have something for me? You started to. and-
Yeah, there was one part of your question that we didn't answer yet, and I was trying to get back to it, but I'm old and do you remember what it was?
No.
Well, let me just say that maybe we need to have some, I mean, I want us to be able to use common sense, but there's legislators that have asked questions in here that regard to this document that they don't know what they can and can't say. And I guess, are we talking about specifically, anything specifically related to any of the candidates? Is that the scope of this? I mean, so.
Well, the scope is a little broader than that. I'm going to suggest that if there are questions, send them to me and I'll respond to the whole body as far as what, because I can't anticipate what all your questions are.
One of the things that I would say is that we don't even really have to sign this confidentiality thing. If we're talking about something in executive session, it should stay in executive session. If we're talking about the process, which we're doing now, it's not something for executive session. And the most important thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to protect the people that we're interviewing so that, for instance, what Fred said, somebody doesn't end up getting fired because they're interviewing with us. Mr. Bennett.
So what you're saying then, Mr. Chair, is if we don't sign this, then we still get a copy, we still get a look at the resumes? According to the way Mike Russell sent this out, if we don't sign this, we don't get a copy of the resumes beforehand?
I don't know. I'm not going to answer that right now. I'm just saying that if there's discussions in executive session, it's supposed to stay there.
Right, exactly, but according to the email that we were sent by HR, that if we didn't sign this, we were not privy to the
We'll have
site.
that all clarified before we start meeting.
But we have these papers, either we're going to sign them or not, you know?
You don't have to sign
What
them.
what is the case, Mike?
If you have specific concerns about the document itself, okay, then send those to me, and I will have that clarified by council to what it is. I confirm what the chairman said, is that the idea is to protect the confidentiality of the candidate. And so that's why the thing was designed. And this was originally designed for the search committee and was modified to the legislature. If you have a specific concern, I will check that out and check that out tomorrow so that we have an answer to it. The way that I presented this was I wanted a commitment from the legislators that they wouldn't share the names and the resumes of the individual candidates in advance of their opportunity to talk to them. And then, so that, because for just the reasons that have been explained here, that there are concerns that impact their current employment. So that's what the intention of this was to get a commitment that we wouldn't be sharing information about individual candidates until there was an opportunity to have the interviews, and then we would decide what's going forward. There has been conversation about if the process doesn't come up with a single candidate, then we might want to go to a third step, and that might include the public, in which case that would be open to them. So really, we're kind of walking through this through one step at a time. So I would ask if you have a specific question, or if you want me to check them to make sure, to council, to make sure that they can identify for you specific things that are referenced in this, I'll do that. And I'll do that rapidly so you will have an opportunity to review the resumes.
Well, like I said, the one question I had, if we don't sign this, does that mean we do not get a copy of the resumes? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
It's not a question
So your
of copy.
confidentiality statement down at the bottom of all your emails, that doesn't constitute, that should be just as good as this. When we open it, when we look at, there's a confidentiality statement in there from everybody. The intention of this email is to the specific person and only them. It's not to be shared with anybody and all that. That should be the same thing as this. If we send and say, Mike, we would like a copy of these resumes, we should be able to get it and shouldn't have to sign this. So you're, in essence, I'm looking at it as you're questioning the integrity of this body by not accepting the emails.
I don't think that's something for HR to be answering. I think
You know,
it's a legal question, and we either,
and then, you know, when do we get these back, when do we give them back and stuff, and when are we gonna have the next executive session where we're gonna talk about all the candidates?
probably at the next meeting that we schedule for the, to meet the candidates.
But I thought the whole purpose of this was to hand out, get the resumes out to everybody so we all have a look at them before, so we'd have some questions ready. Not have to shoot from the
I
hip.
can't answer you, Joe. I haven't been involved in the process. I'm just trying to move the process along. Mr. Foley, or wait, excuse me, Mr. Dennison had his hand up, then we'll go to Mr. Foley.
Just two things. I mean, those of us on the committee, we sign that because we've spent the last 2 months going through this. I mean, there's been people who have said, well, you know, who do you have? Obviously, we couldn't tell anyone. That was the whole point of tonight, saying we've narrowed it down to 5. You know, everyone will have the opportunity, hopefully, one way or another, if we get this straightened out, to see their resumes and then have the opportunity for the 5 of them to come in front of them. So, now like Ryan, you know, I mean, if your constituents ask you, where are we on that, tell them we've narrowed it down to 5 people and we're going to interview them. I mean, they don't need to know anything. Do they need to know the 5 names? Do they need to know where they live, how many children they have? I mean, come on. We got 5 people. We're going to interview them. Eventually, we're going to have 1. I mean, we're not recreating the wheel here. And it seems like we're trying to and making it square. So I feel like the last 2 months has been a waste of my time now.
Mr. Foley.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a question of what we are actually signing. And so far tonight, we have not really received answers. We said, well, we'll look into it, or if you have questions, send them to Mike, he can answer. No, I have not heard answers to some of the questions that we have asked tonight, so much so that some people do not understand this document. Additionally, what Mike Russell has said